Okay. We're going to start straight away. So let's get started in toe squat. Now, the idea with this is that we want just enough tension so that the base of the feet feels as though they're getting an opportunity to open. So for me, it helps me to have the feet relatively close together, but for some of you guys, you might want to open your feet wider, you might want to take your knees wider. Like, it's just feeling into where you get the best kind of opening for you. And then for some of you, you'll want to stay upright with the thighs and hands on the thighs. That's too much for me. I like to start down on the forearms. And then once that initial shock of the sensations kind of subsided, then I will attempt to go a little bit deeper, but somewhere in between that would be having your hands resting on the block. So settle in, my friends. And a few things here. So my suggestion is always, where you can, to work with the eyes closed. So want to really kind of cultivate that inward nature of a yin practice. If the eyes closed is a real challenge, then focus on a drishti, so one single pointed focus with your eyes. And then that way we're starting to focus the mind a little bit more. It's not so frantic. And essentially what we're doing in this pose, it's first thing in the morning, so we've not been on our feet yet. But any stagnation that's kind of come in through the night, in any of the meridian lines, this pose touches into each single one. So we know we're starting in a good place. And then the breath, as always, is gentle, so nothing too vigorous. It's quite nice often to just let the breath flow out through the mouth. We've got about a minute left, so if you want to go a little bit further in, maybe adding a prop in there if it helps to take some weight out of the hands. We just want to meet that edge of just about manageable, so not so intense that we're contracting. Okay. That's a transition out, and again, just be mindful of the speed at what you move. I like to bring my weight forward into the hands, untuck the toes, and just give them a bit of a tap. If you'd prefer to just come to stillness, maybe child's pose, or you can lay onto your tummy. But wherever you choose to rest, be with the sensations that particularly you feeling through the back line of the body. Alrighty. The next pose, the next shape is butterfly. So, soles of the feet are together. You want more of a diamond shape here through the legs. Okay, so rather than it being a really tight Baddha Konasana, feel for a little bit more length. And then my suggestion, what I like in this pose, is to start really humbly. So even if you're someone that can go like all the way in right from the get-go, you kind of miss out on parts of the tension in the spine. And we're focused a little bit more on the upper body anyway today. So for the first minute, feel just the head hang down so that you're almost kind of working the cervical and the thoracic, the upper back. And you'll feel in there that there is little pockets of tension that we often skip past. And we just want to feel like where those little gripping muscles along the neck and the upper back are, that work pretty much the whole day to hold us upright. And essentially what we're doing is just giving them a little bit of time to not need to work so hard. And now you become probably a little bit more familiar with the tension spots through your own spine. Use the breath like you would water, so you're cleansing the layers in between the tissues. And now if there's room, you can start to round perhaps a little bit more. Feeling probably into more of the upper to mid back region. And of course, we want to encourage as much rounding of the spine in this particular pose anyway. And now we start to go a little bit further. So we feel maybe if there is a room to go, you go so that it's more about the relief in the lower and also around the outer hip. So lower back region, maybe still a little bit of the mid back. Blocks are always welcome if you'd want to support the head or a bolster, but it's quite nice, particularly early on in the day, to just allow gravity to do a lot of the work. So if you feel as though you can do this without the support of a bolster or a block, then I would suggest that. Alrighty. So being aware of how we came in, we want to come out the same kind of gradual way. So as you roll up, feel for a little bit more rounding in the low back, keeping the head heavy. Feel the mid back roll up, keeping the head heavy again. And then actually place the palm of your hand on your forehead and help the head up. All the muscles in the neck stay pretty chill. And then from there, let's just we'll come down onto the back for a moment. Rolling all the way down. It's like a mini Shavasana where we pause to feel what's changing. The beautiful thing about this practice is we don't need to worry about how many thoughts are moving through the mind or what kind of tension is here in the body. There's a lot of kind of just trusting the process and knowing that the practice will do the thing it needs to. So let the thoughts be there, let the tension be there, and just trust that things will change. Now we're actually going to stay down on our back and we're coming into a shape called Banana Asana. The easiest way to do this is to bring the legs over to the left side of the mat. So you're starting to make like a little bit of a banana shape through the body. And then I like to pop up onto the elbows and just shimmy the body around. So first side that we want to lengthen is the right side, which means the legs and the upper body will be over to the left. And then there's a number of different options you can do with your arms and your legs. So for some of us, arms overhead is going to be really comfortable. You can clasp the opposite elbows, something like that. You can also just take your arms extended straight up. So totally optional for you there. Some people like to have one arm, which is the right arm extended, and the left hand on the belly. So you feel a little bit more of an exaggeration through the right side. So that's the arms. And then the legs, again, you can cross either ankle over either foot. But what you do want to be aware of is that the right hip is still on the floor. So what sometimes happens is we cross the ankle and then the whole of the pelvis tilt. So we keep in mind that the pelvis needs to stay connected. And then from there, we can cross the legs enough just to feel through the whole right side rib cage. This is one of my most favorite poses for so many reasons. But what I will say is if it doesn't feel really, really intense for you, don't worry. I feel like a lot of times this pose is one of them that feels a lot more intense when we actually come out. But this particular area of the body, like the rib cage and the intercostals, is a particularly notoriously sticky area. And obviously, the stickier it becomes, the more it kind of limits the depth of our breath. And the lack of being able to breathe in and out deeply is what causes agitation in the mind. The breath essentially is what calms the thoughts. Yeah, so just as we stay here and spend a little bit of time relaxing into the shape, see with your mind's eye, like all of the tissues in between each rib cage, in between each rib bone, as though with each breath you take, they're beginning to melt away. The breath dissolves the tension. Just coming up to halfway. And again, there's always the option to keep deepening in. Just being curious about if there's more space to move. But also notice what this pause does in terms of that feeling of down regulation from an internal perspective. So we're setting ourselves up this morning really for quite a down regulated day. Starting the day with the body already in like a rested, like healing mode. Only good things can happen from that, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to start to transition back through the midline. We'll come back to that place where it's a neutral, like Shavasana-like place. And I just invite you guys to feel just feel what's changed. Like you'll notice maybe the right side of the body feels there's more space. Maybe it just is that there's more feeling in that place. But I love these double-sided poses because we really get to feel like how much we're holding in the body. We can compare with like the before and after. And then let's go to the other side. So just super simple. Shuffle your body, your legs over to the right, your upper body. As always, with any double-sided experience, we want to make sure we're accommodating for the asymmetries. So it will feel different, even if that's only slightly. And then work with your arms in a way that helps to continue the unraveling through the left side. Optional to cross the ankles, doesn't have to be a cross. And then remember, it's just about 70% of what we can reach. So Yin's not a striving practice. Well, no yoga is really, but particularly not in Yin. We're literally just setting the body up in a position so that all of the fascia that's thickened through the night or through the previous day has the opportunity to rehydrate and to lubricate. And that way it helps the tissues just glide across each other a little bit easier, which of course assists the movement of our body. And if our body can move freely, then so can the mind. We don't feel so stuck. We've got about 1 more minute, maybe a little bit longer. Again, there's nothing that needs to change, but just that feeling in, notice if there's space to move deeper. If there isn't, no worries. Just keep meeting those edges of tension in your body with ease and grace. There's no strain. Alrighty. Very gentle transition and slow as you can back through the midline. Come back to that Shavasana-like place and let your body be heavy. You're just feeling for changes in the breath. Maybe some changes in the temperature of your body. Okay. Come on up to a kneeling or seated position. I'm going to show you guys a few different versions of this. It's kind of like an extension of melting heart pose, except there's an option to do it with a bolster. And we're going to work with one arm bent. So we do a couple of minutes on each side. But just remember with melting heart that the knees and the hips are stacked. So you don't want to let the pelvis go too far forward or too far back. And then the bolster is if it feels really uncomfortable for you to get your chest on the floor, you can pop a bolster underneath there. And then we'll have the left arm bent with the forehead resting either on the arm or if you can on the floor. And the right arm will be extended. For some of you guys, the bolster will feel really weird. It does for me. So the other option is to take the bolster away. Same thing, you've got the left arm bent and the right arm extended, and you're just letting the chest hang down. So it will depend in how much mobility is in your upper back, whether you need the bolster there or not. If it feels like, for me, when I use it, it feels like it's stopping me going deeper. So it's actually preventing the release that I need. One thing to bear in mind with this pose is that the right arm will be working just a little bit to kind of hold you in place. We won't be in this one for terribly long, just because it is more of a kind of a yang-like version. But we're tapping into, it's at the very, very end of summer. So we're just in the kind of heart, lung, intestine type season. We're starting to move into that place where it's time to begin to let go of like things that we don't need to take into the winter months. And we've still got quite a lot of heat in the body from the summer months. We'll just do probably about another minute here. And just kind of notice there is a bit more tension in the body in this pose naturally. Just be aware of any tension that doesn't need to be there. Places where you might be gripping that, you know, you don't need to, or you're moving tension from one place to the next. Okay, my friends, so if you can, without moving out of the pose, just change your arms so that the left is straight and the right is bent. If, however, you feel as though you just need to release for a breath or two and then come back, that's cool too. There'll probably be a little bit of heat building in the lower back, which again, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. It's, you know, it's early in the day. We can afford to build a little bit of heat in the body. And if you do feel that in the lower area of the back, see if you can mentally move the heat up a little bit. So it's just below the back rib cage. So we're starting to bake the kidneys, which might sound a little bit scary, but it's not. What we're doing by placing this heat in the kidneys is just starting to stimulate our own internal energy, which of course sustains us throughout the day. And if the kidneys are cold and they're lacking in energy, then it's usually when we find ourselves drinking more coffee than we need to, or we're napping in the afternoon, something like that. We have all the resources that we need inside. It's just learning how to use them. It's that intentful way of moving heat from one area of the body and really consciously placing it in another. We've got about 1 more minute left. So again, just feel for a softness in the belly, particularly the lower abdomen. And anywhere else that you might just be holding on a little bit too long. Okay. So as always, this transitions super slow, really easy. You guys have got a few options. So you can come down onto your tummy. You might even want to slide the bolster underneath your belly and let the pressure of the bolster just support there, particularly if there's tension in the lower back. Child's pose, if that's a preferred place for you to move to, and go there. And then just a gradual coming up to seated again. Just take your time. No rush. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of different options, depending on your spine this morning and how you feel. So this is, again, so we want to feel as though there's more of a rounding through the spine. We're not too interested in the legs today. So one of the options is caterpillar, which you'll have your bolster at the back of the knees, and you can really afford to let the spine, the full C curve of the spine. If you're someone that doesn't have problems in the hamstrings, like they're not tight, you might not need a bolster at all. So you can just, again, roll down like we did in butterfly. Now, the other alternative to this is snail. So I'm just going to take my mic off a minute. So the legs come over the head like so. It's a little bit like a yin version of plow pose. You can have the knees bent, whatever kind of works really for you in that respect. Some people like to put a bolster under their feet. Some people like a bolster across the back of the legs. I feel like that is a lot more intense, but if it's something you feel you can do, by all means do it. What I like about the snail version is that it gets into the fascia along the upper back for me, which is a really tricky place to get that deep into. So if you're a caterpillar person, again, try and kind of hold back from going fully into the forward fold. So do it gradually. And if you're a snail person with your legs over your head, same thing, let the spine be really rounded. But again, whatever version you've chosen, this is a really kind of introspective shape. Start to bring ourselves into another layer of internal focus. I won't talk too much for this one and give you guys the space to move into almost like a meditative place where the breath is moving through your body and touching and feeling the places that need awareness. And anything else that comes along, just practice putting it down for now. Whether it's a thought that you need to do something later in the day, or a particular resistance to a feeling in the pores. Okay, my friends, just take a breath there before you decide to move. And just make that commitment to yourselves to move super slow, so like gradually easing out, support your head. And then make your way onto your back just for a little rebound. We don't need to stay too long. It might be that you keep your knees bent this time with the feet to the outer edges of the mat. Just allowing for the spine and the links along the spine to kind of reconfigure. And let's set up for final pause before Shavasana now. I'm going to give you guys a number of different options for this. If you have two blocks, one of my favorite ways to do this is to have one block like that. So you've got a block that's taller, and then the other end is shorter. I'll show you from this side. Okay. And then it's like a supported fish. So you've got the block just underneath the brow line there, and then the other block, I'm just going to be a little bit mindful, is supporting the head. So the whole of the upper cavity of the chest can open like really, really deeply. For some of you, the soles of the feet together will just help even further. That's not for me, but if it works for you, do that. If you want to go into a deeper version, take the extra block away. You can just let your head completely hang, so long as you don't have any sharp pain in the neck. It might be that you feel like that's a good version for you today, so feel free to do that. And then the other option is to run the block vertically along the spine. So rather than it being the horizontal, it just opens up the tissues in a different way. So I guess depending on where you feel that you get the best release, placing the block in the place that allows for that. And this is our last shape before we move to final rest. So this is where we start to really apply the principles of concentration and, you know, the single pointed focus that we talk about all the time in yoga. We know that we've got a day ahead of us, but we're still here, we're still on the mat, we're still in our practice, we're, you know, using the breath as an anchor to keep the mind focused on feeling. Knowing that when we step off the mat, that's when the day begins, but not before. And before you move, take a breath there. When you breathe out, feel the weight of your body on the support of the blocks, like feel for let go. And then very, very slowly support the head with your hands. Find a way to transition that is slow and supportive. From there, we'll come all the way down again onto the back. Bolster at the back of the knees if that helps to support the lower back. Tuck the chin so the back of the neck is long. And let yourself rest as your body remembers the change. There's a remembering. All the parts of ourselves we've brought back together. And here in this resting place, we feel whole. Remember your breath. Start to wash your breath again like you would water through your tissues, clearing and cleansing any remaining tension. And take what you need to transition to one side. And come on, easing up to seated. Let the hands rest easy at the heart. Just that feeling now of what the energy you've created at the start of the day. And how you can take that sense of centeredness, slowness into the day, no matter what today brings. Knowing that the foundations of steadiness have been set. Just take a deep breath in through the nose and out together through the mouth. I bow as always in gratitude for the teachings. We say namaste.